You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, hello. Happy day. How are you guys doing? It is a fantastic day here in New York, and I wanted to talk today about Amanda Knox and OJ Simpson. What do they have in common besides the often talked about July 9th birthday in common? Now, of course, this is like true crime lore at this point. Stephen Avery, Jodi Arias, Amanda Knox, OJ Simpson, Christopher Porco, all have all either convicted killers or acquitted killers in OJ's case and Amanda Knox's case. But it's very interesting that they're treated very, very differently. Now, OJ Simpson is really treated, I would say, like a murderer in this country. From what I've heard, his golf course memberships were declined. He was greeted in the street, "Hello, murderer," you'll see in the clip I'm about to play. And Amanda Knox, on the other hand, is getting $10,000 a pop to talk to Innocence Project at Innocence Project events and other speaking engagements. She's propped up by a big time agency. She's got multiple agents, seems like, from what I've discovered online, backing her. It's very clear when you look up Amanda Knox is guilty on the internet, immediately what comes up is all of Amanda Knox's support sites, Injustice in Perugia, the Amanda Knox case, et cetera, et cetera. Or if you're looking for some evidence in this case, it's very interesting. Same thing. They'll explain, especially DNA evidence, as I've been researching for this series, as I go on, I'll be looking up, like, say, the blood in the sink, and up pops the first, like, maybe 5 or 10 articles will all be, let me explain why the mixed blood evidence is not reliable, or let me explain the DNA evidence, or how shoddy DNA evidence convicted Amanda Knox and helped clear her. Those kind of articles. It's really wild to see just how much the information is controlled, because most people won't look beyond the first 10, 20 searches, right? So let's talk about some similarities. They both wrote books with 4-word titles. So Amanda Knox wrote Waiting to Be Heard. OJ Simpson wrote If I Did It. Drugs, specifically cocaine, came up in both trials. Both of their shoe prints were found in the victim's blood at the scene. So Amanda Knox's shoe print was found. Well, I can't say it was Amanda Knox. It was her size shoe print. The shoes were never recovered. Same thing with OJ Simpson. I don't believe the Bruno Malley shoes. Let's just take a quick look. There's a picture of OJ Simpson in his size 12 Bruno Malley shoes that were found at the Bundy scene, the murder scene. And Amanda Knox's size 37 shoe print, European, or I believe that's a 7 or 6.5. I believe that it depends on what, where you're looking at, what size chart you're looking at. So I just wanted to show you this news story. Okay, so this shoe print discovered under victim links Knox to crime scene. A woman's bloody shoe print found under the body of the murdered British student Meredith Kircher was of a size compatible with her American flatmate Amanda Knox, a Perugia court was told yesterday. Defense lawyers in the murder trial acknowledged that it was the first piece of evidence that might link the American student to the crime scene, but denied flatly that the print was hers. Well, of course they did. The statement was the most arresting pair of yesterday's evidence, during which both Ms. Knox and her co-accused Raffaele Sollecito, her former lover, claimed that they had been mistreated during the police interrogation after Ms. Kircher's murder in the Italian city in November 2007. And it goes on. But I don't know. I think some people were asking about the shoe print. So that's one thing they have in common. Another thing is that their trials were, of course, both media spectacles. They both claimed a form of exceptionalism. Amanda Knox said, I was singled out. I was accused of this crime because I was seen as a kind of sexually free woman. OJ always said, like, I'm I'm Amelie. I'm eccentric, and that was just misunderstood. OJ Simpson always said, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Both blamed the police. Both attacked the prosecutors, Marcia Clark and Manini. Amanda Knox claimed that she was prosecuted because of anti-Americanism and because of old-fashioned ideals about women. OJ claimed he was prosecuted because of a racist LAPD. Both did time or were convicted of crimes that were, both were convicted of crimes that is often not remembered. OJ Simpson did time for kidnapping and armed robbery. Amanda Knox was convicted of slandering her boss, Patrick Lumumba. They both have judgments. So OJ Simpson lost the civil suit against him and was ordered to pay the Goldman family. He's never paid them. And Amanda Knox was convicted of slandering Patrick Lumumba and has never paid him the 60,000 euros she owes him. Let's just take a break and let me rest my voice for a second, and I'll meet you on the other side of the break. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Okay. And I would say both of these crimes were motivated by jealousy. That's another thing they have in common. It's both were supported by powerful people. The head of NBC's Allmeyer supported OJ Simpson. Donald Trump supported Amanda Knox and many other people in power, including Hillary Clinton. Both were crimes that were very bloody and done with knives. A knife was not, and one of the knives in Amanda Knox case was never found, and the knife in OJ Simpson's murder of Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman was never found. So there's two knives, and I'll talk a little bit later about that knife, which had Amanda Knox's DNA on the handle, Meredith Kercher's DNA on the blade. Both claimed mishandling of evidence and shoddy forensics in their trial. Both had criminals come forward and claim that they did the crime. For OJ, Glenn Edward Rogers claimed he did the murder of Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman. And in 2010, Luciano Avello testified that he was a mobster who testified that his brother did this murder of Meredith Kercher. Later, he came out and said that he was offered money by Solecito's defense lawyers to make that claim. Okay. They both publicly said that they were suicidal. OJ Simpson, they both wanted to flee. OJ Simpson was found with cash and disguises. Amanda Knox is recorded talking to her Aunt Dolly about how much she wants to go to Germany and how she can't go to Germany and how they're keeping her there. Okay. Both were circumstantial cases that used DNA. Both have no alibis. Both had injuries after the murder. OJ had a cut to his finger, and Amanda, now this is depending on your viewpoint, Amanda had either, if you're a supporter, you'll say this is a hickey. And if you're not a supporter, you'll say that's a scratch. And that's what Meredith's friend testified. She said it looked, said it looked like a scratch under her chin there. And I've been accused, I have not messed with this photo at all. I'll show it to you in black and white. I don't know which you think you can see it better, but it's a very odd place for a hickey, in my opinion. This is an odd, so OJ made no effort to find the real killer. Yet Amanda was certain that Rudy was the real killer. And this, I find, it's a kind of anomaly around the real killer I find strange. So OJ never looked, and Amanda Knox claims that she was stitched up by corrupted DNA, incompetent forensics, and yet she's certain that Rudy Gude, who was convicted by the same forensics, did this. I find that odd. Basically, the totality of the evidence was narrowed down to being impossible because of one piece of, or a smaller group of evidence. So with OJ Simpson, the glove didn't fit. You have to acquit. With Amanda Knox, there's the constant refrain of there was no trace of me in the room, which is a straight out lie. They both lie a lot. And they both taunted, and this is really more my opinion, the victim's family. Both OJ and Amanda Knox did it. Amanda Knox by constantly saying she wanted to visit Meredith Kercher's grave, no matter how many times she was asked to not speak of Meredith Kercher and not visit her grave. So by Meredith Kercher's family, she was a continual line crosser, and you'll see that with OJ Simpson as well. I think that's what I have as far as comparisons. Let me know what you think are maybe some things that I missed in comparing them. But it's very interesting that they're both acquitted of the murder, and they're treated very, very differently. Amanda Knox, it's frequently called that she was exonerated for the crime of killing Meredith Kircher in concert with other people. Yet there's no sign of this exoneration. And yet the judgment that convicted her was so damning that she was there at the scene of the crime, washed Meredith Kircher's blood off her hands, and that the break-in room was staged. Now, who would have a motivation or the motivation to stage the crime scene? And you have to think it would be only someone who was close to it to sell the idea that this was a lone wolf, one person crime, and that it was nobody who lived in the cottage, because obviously if there's no sign of a break-in, then it had to be someone with a key. No? All right, let's just give my voice another little rest, and I'll meet you back on the other side of the break. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Okay, I just want to thank, I have a thank you in order. Tommy DV, thank you so much for the $4 super sticker. It is much appreciated and really helps me make more episodes like this. So thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who recently signed up on my Patreon. There is a great episode up there right now on Natalia Grace Barnett. I don't know, I would call her the disturbed little person who was adopted by a family thinking that she was 7 years old, and turned out the family claims that she was at the time a psychopathic adult out to harm the family. I had a lot of fun making that episode. It is in my Patreon along with a lot of other bonus content. So I wanted to start out looking at, to continue with some of these similarities. Let's look at this OJ Simpson interview. And so many of these interviews with OJ Simpson that he did after the trial were so incredibly long and frankly boring in parts. I wanted to show this one compilation of his worst interviews. So let's take a look at it together. Okay. So it starts off with OJ Simpson doing a short interview. So let's watch it.
What was it like with the kids today? It's been great. It's been great. When I first attempted to talk on TV, I was surprised by the reaction to a certain special interest group that didn't want me to speak. This is America, I'm told. I thought this was America.
Cut to the chase, if you will.
Yeah.
Did you indeed commit those murders?
No, I did not commit those murders. I couldn't kill anyone.
You're spending too much time on a golf course. You're spending too much.
So that's the same answer we've seen with Amanda Knox. I couldn't, it's not in me, right? And both also claimed that they had good relationships with the victim before the murder, right? That they were OJ Simpson's will say we were co-parenting, except for occasional fights, things were going well, right? No one else says that. And Amanda Knox, of course, says she was friends with Meredith Kircher, and no one close to Meredith Kircher who was around at that time, around the two of them at that time, says that.
Time making a video.
I mourn and I'm still mourning for the rest of my life. I'll mourn, but I should have the right to go outside. I enjoy golf. I should have the right to play golf. Why don't you?
This is very similar to Amanda Knox. Meredith will always be with me. We've listened to those interviews together.
Tell the Brentwood estate, go away for a little while.
Go where? Whether they want me to go to Africa?
You certainly wouldn't want to go back to Africa because you've tried to step away, if you will, from your quote unquote blackness.
Oh, you see? Let's just get one thing straight. I'm a white American. I'm a white 60-year-old lady.
I'm going to take another break, give you a chance to gather your thoughts, and we'll be back in just a moment.
How's your investigation going?
Well, you know, we got information, but once again, we need help from LAPD, you know. And if anybody's being paid, as long as trying to get the money that I've been paid. Fred had gotten very personal about me. I would like to discuss a little of Fred, about Fred and his life and his lifestyle.
You killed his son. Are you capable of killing someone?
Yeah, that's I don't know how close that is to Amanda Knox. She was a lot more subtle in taunting the Kirchers. But I remember when that interview came out on Howard Stern, it was just unreal that he was talking about money and the Goldman family, getting personal with it. It was just wild. Just no one could believe it at the time, that interview.
Somebody.
You know, I would say no.
The perception of the general public today is that you didn't take the stand because you were avoiding telling the truth.
Well, that's their problem. That's not my problem. Nicole was not a person that didn't talk about things that happened in her.
That's interesting. That reminds me of Amanda Knox. They asked her why she wasn't going back for the appeal trial, one of the appeal trials. And she said, "Oh, I consider it an admission of innocence." OJ Simpson isn't that. The fact that she wasn't attending the trial. Other people would say that she was avoiding, had it, not gone her way. And I believe that trial didn't, being put back in an Italian prison. And OJ Simpson isn't as smart. He just it's their problem.
Her life to her close friends and her parents.
She wrote about it in her diary, and we heard her voice on the night.
You guys are so full of beans.
They call me Juice, the Juice.
You take Prozac?
No, I don't take any of those type of.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
I don't take any mood on my vitamin E, so I can be ready when that time comes when some girl says, "Hey, Juice, take me." But the availability of women now is more than has ever been in my life, which I find really strange. Asshole.
So that's another thing, just inappropriate remarks like that, like he's talking about his dating life. Amanda Knox they also both like to tweet, and their tweets have made the news. But yeah, Amanda Knox has been criticized for many insensitive comments, like I think for the one that sticks out for me is when she was talking about her book and how she didn't get $4 million because she murdered Meredith Kircher. She was telling her story, and that had nothing to do with Meredith. Like anyone would know Amanda Knox's name had she not been convicted of the murder of Meredith Kircher or even accused of it. But here's OJ Simpson yelling "a-hole." And it's interesting to see who he's yelling at. Take a listen.
Asshole!
Wasn't he the guy who was the...
He's the head DA of LA. I was in jail for 16 months. Most of my dreams.
So that is OJ Simpson yelling "a-hole" at the district attorney of Los Angeles. And Amanda Knox had very similar disparaging remarks to make about Manini, accusing him of being a victim of satanic panic, being corrupt when he was cleared of any corruption, being crazy. That's another thing I've heard, making wild theories with no basis in reality. So similar there too.
in a sexual nature. At one point, I felt I had reached the state of clear.
I've never personally shaken hands with a murderer.
Never shaken it. Good for this woman. But yeah, just that was OJ Simpson talking about his time in Scientology for all you Scientology watchers. Just a little bit of trivia. He reached the state of clear, which my understanding of it means that your reactive mind is no longer in control. You're totally in control of, what is it, energy, space, and matter, something like that.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice meeting you.
Does that hurt? Huh? Does that hurt your feelings?
No. You got me riled up. You got me started.
Did you do it?
No, I didn't. Nope. Did not do it.
Yeah, both deny murdering the person they were acquitted of murdering, but there's a big difference in that right there, and you saw it. OJ Simpson says he doesn't mind being called what other people think of him, and Amanda Knox it's very clear that she cares. She cares a lot what other people think of her.
After we finished filming, OJ said to me that he had a surprise for me, and I genuinely was surprised. I think it was his idea of a joke, and this is it.
That's like just very similar to, I mean, Amanda Knox named her cat Mr. Screams. Oh, what else? Just the tweets when Donald Trump was elected. She made a tweet, something to the effect of 4 years of Donald Trump can't be worse than my 4 years in Italy. So, meaning an Italian prison, that she was very much criticized for. And OJ Simpson, they continue to make news with their tweets.
Would you take a lie detector test now?
Not for you, I won't.
So
I will do a lie detector test if I can get the money.
You murdered
So both agreed to take a lie detector and test and never did it. Check my previous episode of Amanda Knox versus lie detector.
Nicole. That's why we
I
don't
didn't
get
get along
along.
because Nicole was afraid you were going to have sex with me. That's why we didn't get along.
OJ, wait
Nicole
now.
and I
This
was
is
on
making
that
me
money.
uncomfortable, if you don't mind.
I have no idea how that happened, but it won't happen again.
Marsha Clark. What are your thoughts about Marsha Clark?
I never think of Marsha Clark. And when I was a kid growing up, just about every girl said no once. They had to because you think they were a slut or something. I kissed my son. For a man, she was a great girl to have. You could fight and she'd still cook your dinner. You know what I mean?
Marsha Clark.
I don't think of Marsha. I didn't think she was a nice person. I was in the course when she told Johnny she wasn't wearing any panties, right? And that's, to me, it was typified as Marsha Clark.
Jesus. Log on.
So yeah, there's another example of him putting down Marsha Clark, and Amanda Knox certainly has insulted Manini many, many times.
On and give us your complaint. I'm sorry. I have to keep my phone available. I'll call you back in a minute, sweetheart. I'm doing an interview. I don't even give Marsha Clark thought. I was surprised to see her the other day. She looks like a totally different person. This lady, I know what she did with that $4 million. It's all in her face.
Said if I saw a girl that looked like Nicole, I'd be all over. I love the way Nicole looked, one way or the other. I'm sure there's people that don't like me. I can care less. That's their problem, not mine. My kids are popular. My house, they go to the same school that Jeb Bush's kids went to.
Please clap.
If you don't like it, go back to Europe. Leave me alone. I always feel that the truth will set you free.
All right, apparently he's going to be with us for possibly a week or so.
You're approaching 5 years now at Lovelock. Tell us about your work assignments. How have you occupied your time for the past 5 years?
When I first came here, I was a porter, which comprised of cleaning.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Buttocks squeeze. I don't know, what was that?
Do you think it was a bigger feat to break 2,000 yards in one season or slice 2 necks in one night?
I'm having a little trouble, Kevin, hearing you.
Michael Bay, it's Michael Bay doing the news, the director.
All right. So that is
Coming
whoop. That is OJ Simpson, the worst interviews he's ever done, and certainly a amusing compilation, and reminds me a little bit of some of the things that we've seen with Amanda Knox, but certainly the biggest difference is that Amanda Knox cares a lot about what other people think of her, even, saying many times, I'm not the person that the prosecutor says I am. Diego Rivera, thank you very much for the £5 super sticker. It really is appreciated. So I think we're going to just look at, I promised to take a closer look at the knife, and considering it's such a big part of this case and such a disputed piece of evidence, I thought we'd take a look at it together. And this is from the Murder of Meredith Kercher's site, the original site, which had a lot more information on it. So it's going to be from the Wayback Machine. I'm going to go way back in time. Let's take a look together. So this was the knife that was found at Raffaelli's apartment. And just to remind you, the police officers who came into Raffaelli's house to investigate found rubber gloves, found bleach, said the place smelled of bleach, and in the utensil drawer was this knife that was much cleaner than any of the other knives in the drawer. And when they did the forensics on it, this is how it came out. So this is one of 2 knives were used in the attack. And why do they think that? Because the wounds are very different. They make very different wounds on Meredith Kercher's neck. From measuring the width and depth of other wounds, the second knife has a blade 9 centimeters long and 4 centimeters wide. It was never found. Sorry, I had to cough. The high-resolution picture of the blade of the double DNA knife taken in March 2010 in Conte and Vichetti's lab. Sites of the DNA profile found on the alleged murder weapon at the trial of Knox and Solecito. Exhibit 36 was a 31 centimeter, meaning 12.2 inch long knife with a 17.2 centimeter, meaning 6.8 inch blade and a dark molded plastic handle. It was seized from the kitchen cutlery drawer at Raffaele Solecito's home, located at blank, when Chief Inspector Finzi was ordered to perform a search of Solecito's residence. On entering the apartment, he and his associates, Inspector Volturno, was struck by, quote, the strong smell of bleach, unquote. The knife appeared unnaturally clean and had scratches along its length. This exhibit is important because sample 36B, taken from a scratch on the knife blade, yielded Meredith Kercher's biological profile. It also has Amanda Knox DNA profile on the blade where it meets the handle, which is why it's known as the double DNA knife. Another human trace, 36I, was found on this blade in 2011 by the independent reviewers appointed by the Hellman Appeal Court. While the appeal court declined to test it, the Ninichi court ordered this test in the fall of 2013. It was found to bear Amanda Knox's profile. So is this rye bread? Was Meredith Kircher's, what was said to be Meredith Kircher's DNA, rye bread on the blade of the knife? So this explains a little bit about the testing. The knife was the first Kircher-related item tested after a 6-day interval since the last Kircher item. During this testing in 2007, 7 swabs were taken from the knife labeled A through G. Swab A and B both caused a machine readout of too low, meaning the amount being tested was a low copy number, i.e., less than the 10 picograms in size. These were amplified, and swab A yielded Knox's profile on the handle, and swab B yielded Meredith's profile in a groove on the edge of the blade. Lab contamination was ruled out by all courts. For those in the back, you ready? Lab contamination was ruled out by all courts on account of the above-mentioned week-long interval since processing the last Kircher item. The reviewers initially complained in their report that the negative control tests, blank amplifications, run to detect contamination in the machine had not been done in 2007 until it was established that documentation of these tests had been filed with the Massai court 2 years earlier. Swab B testing negative uses a TMB test, which reacts to hemoglobin in blood. There are 2 possible reasons for this. First, like Knox's swab, the Meredith Kircher material isn't derived from blood and is instead a piece of tissue, which TMB wouldn't detect. The second is that, returning to the low copy nature of the material, the amount of blood is simply below the sensitivity threshold of the test. The definitive argument on this point is that since swab B was negative for blood, the sample is definitely not blood, and therefore it logically follows that Meredith was not injured with it, regardless of her DNA being detected on the knife blade. This argument is convenient, but disingenuous, as it requires the selectivity of accepting Knox's profile, also low copy, or also LCN, I think that means low copy, and negative TMB, while seeking to exclude a Meredith result on the basis of the same characteristics. During the 2011 review, 2 additional swabs were taken from either side of the blade where it meets the handle, marked H and I. The reviewers noted this to be human material, but refused to extract a profile on account of it being too low copy number, estimated at just 2 picograms. Their refusal formed part of the grounds for vacating the acquittal verdict that would follow, and the new appeals court in 2013 ordered that this analysis be carried out. The result was Amanda Knox's DNA being found again on the knife. So here's, you can see on the left, I believe, the first profile is Meredith Kircher's profile. The second profile, I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay. The second profile is the profile that was discovered on the blade of a knife recovered from the apartment of Raffaele. The third profile is the previous 2 profiles superimposed on each other. So you can see, just take a closer look at that. You can see how they match up. Okay, so the murder of Meredith Kircher Soulmates.com asks, if the DNA profile on the knife matches the victim, then what's the issue? That the profile found on the knife recovered from Solecito's apartment is a match to Meredith was never in question. The experts for both sides stipulated to the fact. Do you know what that means? Stipulated to the fact. So what that means is that both sides, both the defense and the prosecution, agreed that this evidence is a fact in the case. So they both agree that Meredith's DNA was found on this knife. Okay. The experts for both sides stipulated to the fact that these two profiles are a match. Conte and Bichetti, I'm sure I'm messing that up, although they reveal their bias in attempting to avoid directly answering the question, eventually admit that the DNA profile recovered from the knife is a match to Meredith Kircher. Their criticism with respect to the knife DNA is that they feel Stefani ought to not have tested it at all, but since it was tested and a profile obtained this result, should nevertheless be excluded because of the small size of the sample, precluded dividing it first for two separate amplifications. Specifically, there is a minor objection that the lack of genetic material did not allow for repeated testing, and a more significant objection that because the quantity of the DNA was so small, it might have arrived on the knife by some innocent means. So what do you think the innocent means that Meredith Kircher's DNA would have arrived on the knife? And I've mentioned this many times before, but Raffaele was very concerned with this knife and was writing in his diary about a fantasy, basically, a lie, writing about the time Meredith came over and cooked dinner at his apartment. It never happened. And Raph pricked her with a knife. And he said, "I'm so sorry." And Meredith said, "It's not a problem." That never happened. So it looked like he was tailoring the evidence, making a story to tailor it to the evidence. Why would he want to do that if you're an innocent person? So it goes on, but I will put this up as a link in my Facebook group if you want to read on further about it. But I had promised that I would deal with the knife, and that is just one piece of evidence against Amanda Knox. I think this is a good time to take another quick break, give my voice a rest, and I'll meet you on the other side. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Okay. So one other quick thing. Harry Ragg on Twitter has been doing some great tweets on this case. I think he's in a discussion with Andrew Hamill about it. And he brought up, of course, the DNA of Solecito on Meredith's bra clasp. So let's take a look at that quickly. All right. So I don't know how easy it is for you guys to read that, so I'll read it to you. Was Raffaele Solecito's DNA on Meredith's bra clasp, both by the quantity of DNA analyzed and by the fact of having performed the analysis of 7 loci with unambiguous results, not to mention the fact that the results of the analysis were confirmed by the attribution of the Y heliotrope by the defendant, it is possible to say that it has been judicially ascertained that Raffaele Sollecito's DNA was present on the exhibit, an exhibit that was therefore handled by the defendant on the night of the murder. That's from the Ninichi report, page 267. And you can see that this is very strong DNA. And so that 17 loci, so that means were a match to Raffaele, which means it's a very strong match to Raffaele. Could not be anyone else. And of course, Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito supporters will all say it's corrupted, as they always do, contaminated, even though they can't tell you how it was contaminated. It was just contaminated somehow by the dust in the air, swinging it around, even though it was found under Meredith Kircher's body. I will also put this up in my Facebook group so you can take a closer look at it. It's really obviously hard to read in this small form, but it's, again, very strong evidence. And then you have all their lies. I mean, I'm trying to think of another case where someone accused or a witness in a case. So Amanda Knox was really just a witness at this point, came in and accused someone they knew. He was very nice to them too, just anyone they knew, of doing this crime falsely. How many other cases have false accusations? Can you guys think of any? I was really racking my brain. I have never seen that in any other case. And certainly the amount of lying. Why did they lie so much? Why did they change their stories? And right up at the end, Raph was saying that Amanda Knox left, was not supporting her alibi. That's really swept under the rug by Amanda Knox supporters. At the end there, you know, right up into the end, he was saying she left at 9:00 the night of Meredith Kircher's murder. She left me alone at home to surf the internet and smoke a joint alone. She said she was going to Le Chic. I don't know what she did, but I didn't see her till she came back to this apartment at 1:00 in the morning. But previous to that, they both said they were at home and that they slept until 10, even though his computer showed activity at 5 in the morning. Why did they turn off their phones the night of Meredith Kircher's murder at the same time, right before, between 8:30 and 9:00, and then turn it on together at 6:02 a.m.? Why did they do that? I mean, the craziest thing. Oh, one more thing before I go. So one thing I haven't talked about, and so Amanda Knox likes to often say that there was no trace of me. It's like her PR refrain. There was no trace of me in Meredith's room or in the crime scene. There was no trace of me. So she's reduced the crime scene to just being Meredith's room. So forget the room, Philomena's room, the room of the stage break-in, where her DNA combined with Meredith Kircher's DNA that lights up under luminol, which means that Amanda Knox was bleeding at the same time as Meredith Kircher. Why? And also that same kind of DNA that lights up under luminol was found in the bathroom. And you can see that the experts were convinced, certainly for the prosecution, were convinced that because of the high markers that showed that Amanda Knox was bleeding, that it could not be, it wasn't like leftover DNA because she lived there. You often hear that, right? So why were they bleeding at the same time? So Amanda Knox loves to say there was no trace of me in the murder room. There's her lamp, which was her only light source. sitting in Meredith Kercher's room. She's never been asked about that as far as I know. In American media, certainly not. And so she says that it would be impossible. But what's also interesting is that there were no fingerprints of Amanda found on that lamp or in the cottage, except for one glass in the sink in the kitchen. And I just want to quickly pull up the news story that talks about this. Oh, darn it. Did I not bring it up? I may have to save this till next time. All right. Well, I'm going to save this till next time. I thought I had loaded it up, but clearly I didn't. So I will deal with this next time. But it's a very interesting part of this story that clearly the crime scene seems to be, or a reasonable person would infer from that when she lives there. So when I'm asking Amanda Knox supporters, if her fingerprints weren't found anywhere in the cottage but on that glass in the sink, did she really live there? I mean, that's sort of like the same kind of thing. Like, how did I erase all of Rudy Goudet's? How did I leave Rudy Goudet's and erase all of my own DNA? Well, or erase, I think she says erase any traces of herself. Well, there's her size. Her definitely same female size shoe print on the pillowcase. There's your lamp. And then there's the female size fingerprints in the form of bruises on Meredith Kercher's body. So yeah, there are traces of you, but it sounds so good, doesn't it? And that is how innocence fraud is done. That is what an innocence fraud campaign is about. It's about making something untrue seem true, feel true, seem logical, make you come to a conclusion by giving you either wrong information or just a little piece of the information, and then just guiding you to the conclusion that they want you to come to. And so you'll often hear people say, well, why would she want to kill Meredith Kercher? They were friends. Oh, they hated each other's guts? Oh, well, that's different. That changes things a little bit. So that's why we talk about Amanda Knox's behavior and Amanda Knox's habits and her relationship with Meredith Kercher. But next time, I will promise you, I will have that DNA article loaded up and ready. And thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you back here next time. Have a great one, everyone.